Hey everybody, I'm Ty Sailors and welcome to our first Apothecary video. Most of you probably don't know me since you can't come to the bar right now, but I'm the beverage manager and director of Apothecary. Today we're bringing in a good friend of ours, Kevin Easton, from one of our main distributing companies who brings us our fine wines and spirits, and he'll be showcasing an excellent line of wines that will be available to us and to you through the Hive very shortly, as well as showing you all the most requested cocktail I've gotten from our homage projects, the Southern Harvest Old Fashioned. We'll work on all that in just a minute. Stay tuned. So, the Southern Harvest Old Fashioned came to life in our Mabon homage project. The project focused around harvest flavors of the fall, and I wanted to highlight one of our best Kentucky Proud products that isn't bourbon that I know of, Rivulet Pecan Liqueur. If you've not had this stuff, I recommend you try it by itself. If you want to buy this drink from us, it's going to be pre-mixed, but I would check it out at your local liquor store. It is a pecan liqueur based out of Louisville, Kentucky. Pecans sourced out of Georgia, but it is absolutely fantastic if you like pecans. This is what really makes this old fashioned come to life, and it could be our secret ingredient today. So, first thing I'm going to do, making this old fashioned, ice down my mixing glass. The Yari is a very nice Japanese-styled mixing glass that we use for most of our stirred cocktails. You can use a regular glass or mixing shell, no problem, but if you've got this available, why not make it look a little nicer? So get your ice going in there, and then we're going to get our base or our enhancers of the old-fashioned going. These are going to be anything other than your bourbon, really. Usually an assortment of sugars and bitters. So the bitters are also a pretty prime component of this drink. We're going to use black walnut bitters, toasted almond bitters, and Angostura bitters. Angostura bitters are, in my opinion, the cornerstone of any old-fashioned. You're not going to be able to make a good one without it. If you can, we'll talk, but to this day, all of my best old-fashions have had Ango in it. So, you've got to have a dash of Angostura in there. It is a nut old-fashioned, so we do want some toasted almond bitters to add a little bit of sweetness, and those black walnut bitters to bring out a deep, nutty flavor. With those, we're going to bring in the other part of the nut flavor, which is the Rivulet Pecan Liqueur. Half ounce of that will do it. And then our sugar. Demerara sugar is raw, unprocessed cane sugar that still has the molasses on the sugar. Now, regular white bleach sugar is going to get a sweetness, but it doesn't really have a body of flavor other than sweet. Demerara adds a bit of molassesy, deep, sweet, nutty texture that goes great with these bitters. So I would definitely use that. Now you want to be careful because too much sweetness will ruin your old fashioned. All I need for this is a 1/4 ounce of that Demerara syrup. Okay, from there, I throw a dash of salt solution in every single cocktail I make. Salt opens up your palate, lets all the flavors meld in a really nice way so you can taste what's going on in the glass. Finally, the most important part, Elijah Craig bourbon, I think, is the cornerstone bourbon for mixing. I use it in every single old fashioned I make, and I've never been disappointed. If you've not tried it in old fashioned, I would highly recommend this product as well. If you do order this cocktail off Hive, this will be the featured bourbon in that cocktail. 2 ounces of that on your old fashioned. And from there, we are, good to mix. You want just enough ice to cover up your liquid line and stir until it is chilled. Usually 10 to 15 seconds if you've got a good fast stir. No problem if you've got to stir a little bit longer. A colder drink is going to be a better drink though. All right. From there, another ingredient that makes an excellent old-fashioned is a nice big clear ice block. And from there, as you see, we've got a real nice big clear ice cube for our drink. We're going to strain over. And finally, our garnishes. Orange peel is another cornerstone to the old-fashioned. The orange oil from the peel is going to bring out some more zesty, citrusy, light notes of the bourbon without completely transforming that flavor. And make sure to express that orange peel over top so you can smell that nice fresh orange with it. And finally, the favorite part of this cocktail, Cameron's secret recipe, candied pecans. You can get these in just about any store, but if you want the real thing, you're gonna have to come to an homage night and talk to Cameron himself. From there, we have our gorgeous old fashioned ready to go. Hey everybody, we are here today with Kevin Easton, a friend of ours who works with RNDC, one of our main suppliers of fine wines and spirits. He is also a certified sommelier, and he has brought us an excellent flight of Stonestreet wines that you will be able to purchase on the Hive. So what do you got for us, Kevin?
So I chose Stonestreet Vineyards because A, there's a connection to Lexington. As some of you may know, there's a farm outside of Lexington called Stonestreet Farms. And Stonestreet Vineyards and Stonestreet Farms are owned by the same family. So just a little bit of wine and horse connection for this horse racing time of year that we're in. The main focus of Stonestreet, though, it separates it from a lot of other wines, is that these wines come from vineyards that are on the side of a mountain. So Alexander Valley is where the wines are officially from, which is in Sonoma County, California. And within Alexander Valley, there's a mountain called Black Mountain. And so on the south-facing side of Black Mountain, Stonestreet has a lot of their vineyards. And so all three of these wines today come from those higher elevation vineyards. And what does higher elevation give you? It gives you more intense sunshine, it gives you cooler nights, because for every 300 feet you rise in elevation, you lose a degree of temperature. So with the Chardonnay, this is their estate Chardonnay, so it's taken from certain select vineyards going up the side of the mountain between 400 feet above sea level. And keep in mind, we're about 18 miles from the ocean. So you're already 400 feet above sea level. Lexington's around 600 feet. And some of these vineyards go as high as 2,000 feet above sea level. So we're kind of in that stretch. And so some of the Chardonnay is going to be well above the fog line, which just means that there's more opportunity for sunshine to hit these vineyards. And sunshine equals intensity, both in red and white wines. So the Chardonnay also spends a little bit of time, 10 months in a barrel, kind of maturing and softening, integrating. Some of those barrels, about 35%, are brand new barrels, which means they're contributing some aromas and flavors of vanilla and cinnamon, other baking spices. So what you'd expect out of this wine is a fairly rich body, lots of intensity, real sort of crisp, bright energy to the wine, but also a nice sort of round, soft character, kind of encompassing all of that bright, zingy fruit. So if you want to have a taste of this with me, we can
This is the
see what you
Chardonnay.
think. What's this? So this is the estate Chardonnay coming from vineyard blocks between 400 and 2,000 feet above sea level. And we'll have a graphic that I think we could put on the website where you can see where the vineyards are laid out on this mountain.
Oh yeah. This is bright Chardonnay. I like that one.
And intense. Also with elevation, you have really cool nights. And so when the grapes cool down at night, it helps to preserve some of the acidity in the wine, which is what ultimately gives lift to really intense flavors. And like I said, these are all going to be intense wines. So you really need that lift or the wine is going to fall heavy on your palate. Not something you want. You want to strike that balance. So what do you?
That's unlike a lot of Chardonnays like that, actually. I could see that pairing really, really well with a lot of different dishes. Couldn't drink good about that.
Yeah, the citrus, it's got this bright lemon citrus. It's got crisp, fresh green apple. As you get to the finish, I get a little bit of peach. There's a vanilla creaminess coming from that maturing in oak barrels. In the oak barrel, the French would call it spending time on the lees, which is just something that adds that creaminess to the wine, which is nice. So again, we're just creating layers and complexity. And if you notice, this wine is still on the palate after you take a sip.
It is, and it's all that fresh, bright fruit.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting now. That's all that's lingering for me. It's
The
very
length
nice.
from this wine is really nice. Not all white wines really have a a long finish like this. So if you want to move on to our next wine, this is the Estate Cabernet. So again, this wine is sourced from vineyard blocks that are kind of moving up the mountain. And with this wine, it starts around 400 or 500 feet in elevation, but continues up to about 2,400 feet in elevation, all the way up to the top of the mountain, or as high up as their vineyards get. So again, just like with the white wine, what you're expecting is intensity. All of that additional sunshine that you get above the fog line and at higher elevations means that the skins will form a little thicker, and all of the color that you get in red wine is coming from those skins. And also something in red wine called tannins, which is when you take a sip of red wine and you feel like your mouth is really dry afterwards. Those are tannins. They like to attach to saliva and take it with the wine. So that's why Cabernet is a really good food wine, and I would definitely have this with food. But tannins develop more so in thicker skins. Colors, all of your flavor and aromas are coming from the skins. The pulp inside is literally just the sugar that you use to make alcohol. So again, we're looking for intensity of fruit here. The wine spends 18 months in a barrel maturing, French oak, and about, again, maybe 36 or 37% of that is new barrels. So an older barrel is going to help the wine to sort of breathe and mature and soften. The new barrels are contributing flavors. So there's about vanilla, cinnamon, nutmeg, that kind of thing. So if you like Cabernet, this is classic, intense red mead.
True Cabernet, yeah.
And we're having it without food, so you can feel the tannins grip on.
Yeah.
And that's something that when you have a steak, those tannins are they like protein, so they're gonna bind to the food you're eating rather than to the saliva in your mouth, and spare you that drying effect.
That's like what I'm saying about the skins, like the color of these are so deep and rich.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite crabs, just at any time.
What would you pair this with if you were going to make dinner tonight with the Stonestreet? What would be your preference?
Well, I definitely think any kind of steak, especially something more like a strip steak or a ribeye that has kind of that gristly flavor, is really good. That would be good for either of these two cabs that we have here. Both of these really, they want a nice, big, dense meal to stand up to.
I can see that, absolutely. Sounds fantastic. All right, how about the last guy here?
So this third wine is kind of special because in the state of Kentucky, we can't always get this wine, but we have some right now.
Notice it's intense, like right off the bat.
So when I was talking about the hillside of Black Mountain, this is a single vineyard called Rockfall, which is the vineyard itself stretches between 2,000 and 2,200 feet. So we're sort of exclusively dealing with some of that highest elevation fruit. So you would expect everything I was saying about elevation to even be more so intensified in this wine. More color. It does spend more time in the barrel, which because the tannins are going to be more intense, that's allowing the tannins more time to kind of smooth out, become more plush and less coarse. That's a big reason why red wine needs to spend time maturing, because of those tannins.
So they're more intense the younger it is then?
Oh yeah. So, and with this wine in particular, when you're tasting the fruit, you're getting more depth of flavor, more complexity. All the fruits that you taste are so much more clearly exactly what they taste like, rather than just tasting like black currant or cassis or blackberry. Like, they really taste like the real thing. But being this high up in elevation, you get more of the savory components. So kind of tobacco leaf, when you put your nose to the glass, you sort of can get that like pencil lead, graphite kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's much more complexity, and I think you would find between these two, the length and the concentration, the complexity are all another step up. Wow. That's special.
That's what it is. Oh.
Wow. And I feel like the length of this wine is going to continue after I leave the building.
Yeah, I can tell that already. Wow, that is very, very bold. I like that a lot. So just to reiterate, what are the main differences between those two cabs that we have here? This is a special one. It's limited stock, but it's also, this is the higher elevation you stated. Is that right?
Yeah, so the first two wines are what they would call an estate wine. An estate just means that they own all the land, they make the wine themselves, they mature the wine and barrel themselves. They're not sourcing this out to anybody else. And that is not to say anything bad about sourcing other people to handle certain aspects of production, but it does mean that they are in total control of this wine from the time the vine buds in the spring till the time it goes in the bottle and even after that. So the estate cab and the estate Chardonnay have all of that, but they are sourced from blocks that kind of move up this slope. So to them, this would be a style that showcases the fruit that they're growing there on the estate. And then the last cab that we have, the Rockfall cab, is showcasing what just one of these little vineyard plots is giving in terms of fruit. So some of the Rockfall fruit is going into the estate Cabernet, but the Rockfall itself is just from that vineyard. So you're really just experiencing mountain fruit at its sort of highest elevation at that point. To put it in perspective, in the Napa side, I'm not aware of any vineyards that are this high in elevation. The highest I'm aware of are approaching 2,000 feet, maybe 1,800. This is on the other side of the mountain range, but they are really accessing some of the peak elevations.
Yeah, you can really tell a difference. Comparing that to your standard cab, again, those flavors are just so much more bold and so much more bright. Like you're saying, the fruit flavors just come through so strongly. I can see that going fantastic with a nice red wine.
So did you have a favorite out of the three? Doesn't necessarily
I mean,
have to be the biggest one.
I think it's got to be that special cab at the end. Those two cabs were both fantastic. I almost expect them to be even closer embodying flavor, but like it is another world.
It really is.
And I was thinking, is this correct that you could almost attribute that to like a small batch bourbon versus like a blended, where you got just that specific plot of grapes being used?
For sure. So, if you have a single barrel bourbon, you're really experiencing the life that one barrel lived, and that's dependent on, where it's placed in the warehouse, whether it was towards the edge and it warmed up and cooled down a lot more than barrels that were on the interior of the warehouse. This is kind of the same thing. The estate cab is kind of showcasing that entire slope, whereas the Rockfall is showcasing one really high elevation portion of that slope.
That makes
So it's just kind of zeroing in and getting more specific.
Absolutely, okay. I mean, not to overshine the Chardonnay again. Usually the Chardonnay is one that either has to be paired very, very well. It's not maybe my favorite wine, but that I could drink that with a lot of different foods for sure. Very much so enjoy it. So,
And I think if you like Chardonnay, this is hitting on all cylinders.
absolutely,
Yes. Nice.
Well, I'm really excited to get carrying these wines. Thank you so much for bringing these in for us, Kevin.
Absolutely. Thank
And
you
once
for having me.
again, anybody that's interested, we will be selling these wines on the Hive. Make sure you pick them up before you run out, especially the limited edition guy here. So, cheers.
Cheers.
So there it is. The wines you see today and this fantastic cocktail will be featured on the Hive, so feel free to order those. Check them out yourself if you're interested. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.